Welcome to week 9. We're about halfway through the season, and we're handing out midterm report cards today. Is this mine? A C-? My mom is going to be so mad. Beat the Odds starts right now.
From our Las Vegas studios, this is Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook Westgate Las Vegas.
Well, welcome to Beat the Odds. Welcome back inside our Las Vegas studio. I'm your slightly below average host, Dave Hall. A C-? Well, thankfully, we have some A-plus people on the show to bring the show average up. We're also handing out some mid-season report cards for football teams. Teddy and Jack will tell us who the star students are so far and which teams might need detention. Brandon Marshall will give us his A-plus teams and what teams can do a lot to improve their grades. And it's been a huge week for trades. Mariah will show us how these deals can make or break a season. All right, here we go. Let's get it started. You guys ready? You guys ready for this?
I prefer the schools that don't give grades out and everybody gets a trophy.
Well, this is the school of hard knocks, apparently. We're taking it back to high school, you guys. You guys were also graded by our producers. I hope you scored better than I did. So, again, I got a C- in both my grade and my citizenship. A couple comments, corny jokes, and wears the same outfits. I mean, I guess that's fair.
You know what? C- is fine.
All right, well.
You can pass. Move yourself into the next level with a C.
All right, Fat Jack, this is your report card. Let me just slide it on over to you.
Sure. You know what? I'll take anywhere in here is fine. A and a D?
Whoa.
I mean, if I have an A in anything, I've probably been cheating.
Well, look at the comments. Talks too much in class and inappropriate humor.
Yeah. You guys have talked to my high school teachers. That makes sense.
Guilty on both accounts. And Teddy, our star student, straight A's. Let's slide that on over to Teddy.
That's exciting.
Woo.
Ignores Jack. Yeah, that's the key one right there. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I will say this, though. At the end of the show, Jack's play has been really good. Mine have been not as good as late. So we got to give him credit.
We're both doing great. It's going to be good.
Well, let's have an A-plus show, you guys. We'll have grades for Brandon and Mariah later in the show. Now let's grade some football teams. Jack, let's start with you. And you have some teams that might need to be put into detention.
I'm comfortable with some underachievers, to be totally honest with you. And, yeah, we can start with the defending champs. I mean, Los Angeles has not looked good. They've been on a throw count in practice with Stafford. He looks totally lost. Our defense has been good, not great. With a win total preseason at 10.5, this team certainly underachieved. Las Vegas, another one. You know, this is probably the best 2-5 team there is out there. They've been in a couple of different games, against.
It didn't look like it last week.
No, well,
that was pathetic.
We're not going to jump on recency bias. We're going to stay neutral. But Tennessee, Kansas City, both 2 or 3 point losses. So this is a better team, but with 8.5 preseason, they certainly underachieving. And the last one, not necessarily going to be good, but that hard knocks effect is certainly taking control of Detroit. 97% of the money that was bet on them to make the playoffs or not was bet for them to make the playoffs. Listen, this reminds me of my daughter. When she went to a track meet, she was 5 foot 200 pounds and ran dead last in the 100. I said, let's get you over the shot put or the hammer throw, something that you're more suited for because you're not a sprinter. But I fell in love with the fact that she's my daughter. That's what's happened with Detroit. They watch the show, they pull for them, and it's hurting their bankroll.
There we go again with inappropriate humor from Jack. All right, Teddy, you have some of the star students so far.
Sure. He talked about the underachievers. I'm going to talk about the overachievers. And really, the NFL at the halfway point, all of a sudden the stats become very meaningful. All right, things like yards per play differential, what they're gaining on offense versus what they're allowing on defense. That's one that I pay a lot of attention to. Turnover margin at this time of year is something that matters a fair bit because the teams that have turned the ball over are likely to continue to turn the ball over, and teams that are avoiding turnovers aren't likely to have that problem in a significant way. And, of course, strength of schedule at the midseason point is something that's very real. So when we look at some of these first-half overachievers and talk about the statistical profiles for these squads, well, the G-Men, Minnesota, Atlanta all have negative yards per play differential. That means that the straight-up record they have may be somewhat misleading teams that may not be able to continue to overachieve, whereas teams like Philly or Gangrene or Dallas or Seattle, all positive yard per play differentials. That means teams like that more likely to continue their success.
How that's not A++. I don't know what's going on.
That's why he's the star student.
I love it.
All right, thank you, boys. Well, hanging out in a Vegas sports book is always an A+ experience. Mariah is inside the Superbook Westgate Las Vegas with more.
Thanks, Dave. We've got our guy back, Jay Cornegay, EVP of Superbook Operations here at the Westgate. Now, the theme of this week is futures. At this point in the season, we're at the halfway mark now. How much action do you guys see coming in on futures?
Well, futures overall are very popular in all sports, but especially football. People place bets on futures throughout the entire season, and this year's no different.
Now, for someone who wants to place a futures bet right now, what teams should they be looking at and what kind of approach should they have?
Well, I would look at teams that had high expectations coming into the season and maybe got off to a slow start the first half. Teams like San Francisco, Baltimore, they have very favorable schedules in the second half. I'd probably look their way because there might be some value there with those two teams.
Now, looking at Week 9, there's a lot of teams hovering around 500 right now. Is there a certain team or a certain game where you know that a win or a loss will really impact the trajectory of their team going forward?
Well, there's a couple out there, and I know one's on a bye week, but a lot of people have been talking about fool's gold teams, like the New York teams, no offense, also the Seattle team. The Seattle team's been playing way above their head. Geno Smith's been off to a great start, but you got to look out for those 49ers, one, and look out for that schedule that they have in the second half. But if they go down to Arizona this week and play a rough game, it's going to be an uphill battle for Seattle the rest of the way.
Yeah, Geno and Pete Carroll seem to be a match made in heaven there. Dave, we'll send it back to you in studio.
Thanks, Mariah. Well, hey, we're just getting started. Brandon Marshall is handing out his mid-season grades. See which team gets an A and which one gets an F. Plus, Jack is back talking the AFC, which teams are cooked and which ones are primed to make a run.
Beat the Odds is sponsored by Superbook Westgate Las Vegas.
As we head to break, Derrick Henry rushed for 219 yards last Sunday. He became just the third running back ever to go over 200 yards 6 times. Who are the other two? O.J. Simpson, yikes, and Adrian Peterson. Peterson also holds the record for the most yards in a single game with 296.
The Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino. Legendary. Vegas. Fun. Enjoy Westgate's classic gaming and entertainment. Savor fine dining. And experience the world's largest sportsbook, Westgate Superbook. It's all at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino.
Technically, the game lasts 60 minutes, but the memories last a lifetime. Show the world what it means to be a fan. Exclusive fan gear by Fanatics. Fanatics, officially licensed everything.
You love our show. Now you can get even more from BeatTheOddsTV.com. Betting lines, trends, and analysis of the big games.
The difference between a bad beat and a big win.
BeatTheOddsTV.com.
Welcome back to Beat the Odds. Green Bay plays at Detroit this weekend. Why is this game called the Uper Bowl? People in Michigan's Upper Peninsula call themselves Upers for UP, and they root for both Green Bay and Detroit. In fact, at the Schooner Bar and Grill in Menominee, they actually split the bar between Green Bay and Detroit fans.
All righty. Well, we have a bar or 2,000 here in Vegas as well. Nothing beats a football Sunday in Vegas, and nothing beats our website either. Scan that QR code and go there. BeatTheOddsTV.com. You'll find all kinds of great betting information there. All right, it is Brandon Marshall time. Now, before you give out your mid-season grades, our producers have been giving us report cards as well.
Okay.
So you ready for this, Brandon?
Yeah, let me see.
All right, let's see Brandon's report. Wow,
Okay.
look at that.
Citizenship. All right.
You like it?
Great dresser. Can bench press jack.
That's probably a fact, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you could probably bench press all of us combined. All right, so an excellent report card from Brandon.
Yeah.
All right, now it's your turn to hand out some grades. First off, let's start off with your A-plus team of the season so far.
It has to be Philadelphia. I mean, you know, those guys look spectacular, right? You know, Philadelphia is just cruising through the NFC East right now. We'll see how it goes later on the season, but they look great.
They really do. All right, on the opposite end of the spectrum, an F team or two?
Yeah, I have two. Las Vegas and Denver, because those guys had crazy expectations going into the season with the addition of Devontae Adams, Russell Wilson, Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones only has half sack this season, which is crazy. Yeah. So those teams have an F.
Two teams you used to play for. Go figure. Terrible. All right, well, we are halfway through the season. You know, as a player, whether you're on a good team or a bad team, I mean, what are you thinking about at this point?
Yeah, I think it actually depends. You know, if you're on a bad team, you know, you may just try to get your stats up because you're trying to get paid, right? You got to, you know, you want to play the best you can to put the best film out, because the coaching staff may change. You may switch teams. You may go into free agency. It depends, because sometimes you have to be selfish, right? At the end of the day, if you're on a good team, you know what? You just keep plugging along because, you know, look, you still have championship aspirations in mind, but if you're on a bad team, get those stats.
You also say got to take care of that body, and practices become a little less physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we go along here.
Yeah. You know, they become a little less physical. Coaches try to, you know, take it off of you because, you know, all that pounding, and it's, you know, the league is tough, right? It's tough week in and week out. So you got to protect your players.
And last point there, is your team on the cusp? If your team is?
If your team is on the cusp, you keep working. You know, you keep plugging along. You try to find ways to get better, try to find ways to get to that next level so you could make the playoffs, potentially make a championship run. So it just really depends on where you're at.
All right, Brandon Marshall, slick dresser, perfect report card. I mean,
appreciate it.
Great job, my man.
Thank you.
Great job. All right, well, Jack is back talking about the AFC and which teams to look out for. Jack.
Yeah, so we're looking at teams that we might be able to take advantage of from what we've seen in the first part of the season to now. It's really difficult when you're talking about divisional teams that may be able to leapfrog some other teams. I started with Cincinnati, and then they promptly went and lost to Cleveland. So that's not the best start. I mean, but I do think that they're a team, the second half team last year, could definitely get better as we go through. So I would lean toward them to be able to close the gap on a Baltimore team that has a 22nd ranked defense. So not a really strong defensive. They're going to have to perform every week offensively, I think, to keep winning games. The other one that I look at, I'm okay with the front runner. You know, Breeders' Cup's this weekend as well. And I'm okay with the front runner as long as I don't think anybody behind him can catch up. And I think we're getting that in the AFC South. Tennessee is minus 275, but behind them you have teams with major problems. Indianapolis, rookie quarterback, only averaging 16 points a game. Jacksonville's the type of team, you know, we give Trevor Lawrence passes, but he is 5-20 straight up in his career. So,
and throws a lot of bad interceptions at bad times.
Right. I think people are just starting to realize we expect him to be better. I think his hair makes him, we just feel like he's going to be great.
Well, he was kind of anointed as something that he has not yet at least lived up to.
He is not, and he's not good against the spread either. So I'm not going to really like them. So I would definitely, and Houston's behind them. So Houston, absolutely not. So I would go ahead and play the front runner. You have to lay some odds, but I would go ahead and play the favorite in that one.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Teddy's also looking into his crystal ball, see which teams he has as good shots and long shots. Plus, we've seen a lot of trades this week. Mariah will show us if these trades and whether or not they make or potentially break a season.
All right, it's factoid time. Who is the first player in league history to have 10 games with at least one rushing and one receiving touchdown in his first 6 seasons? Alvin Kamara set the record last week against Las Vegas, and Kamara needs just 2 more to tie the franchise record of 72 touchdowns set by Marcus Colston.
The Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino. Legendary. Vegas. Fun. Enjoy Westgate's classic gaming and entertainment. Savor fine dining. And experience the world's largest sportsbook, Westgate Superbook. It's all at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino.
Welcome back to Beat the Odds. Who never played college football but is a franchise leader in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns? The answer, Antonio Gates. Gates played college hoops for Kent State and signed with San Diego as a free agent. He leads all tight ends in league history with 116 touchdowns.
Yeah, one of the all-time great tight ends right there. We're back with Teddy. Now, one of the biggest surprises this season has been the NFC East. Everybody thought this division would stink, and they've been fantastic.
From the get-go. And, of course, if you were watching Beat the Odds from the beginning of the season, you know already we liked Philadelphia to win the division at the plus price before the season began. If you made that wager, you've got a great wager to make right now. to bet back on Dallas. Again, at a nice plus price, better than 4-1 on Dallas to win that division. This is nothing against Philadelphia, but Dallas is a really good team with a reasonable schedule and another chance to face Philly, even though they lost that first meeting. I think they're live at plus 425. And when I can find a 4-1 dog that's live, I'll talk about it on air. In addition, we got to talk about some odds to make the playoffs in the NFC right now. And Minnesota, a team that I talked about at the open and I'm going to talk about at the close. You can get a no for Minnesota to make the playoffs at better than 10-1 right now. Their statistical profile, not particularly attractive. Their upcoming strength of schedule, tougher than people might think. I take a shot. Again, 11-1 not to make the playoffs. I think that's live. And of course, last year's champs in LA. This team is going through some very hard times right now. The offensive line isn't there. The receiving core isn't there. The no for LA to make the playoffs. You have to lay almost 2-1. I think that's a solid wager. And we talk about the trade deadline right now. Look, there are a couple of big acquisitions, but the one that stood out to me, this is a Baltimore team that could easily be 8-0 right now. Instead, they're 5-3. Why? 3 different fourth quarter defensive meltdowns. They just picked up the NFL's leading tackler, and Roquan Smith from Chicago. I think that makes them better right away. I'd watch out for Baltimore moving forward.
All right, Teddy, thank you much. That's why he's a star student right there. That was good stuff. All right, well, as mentioned, we just saw a lot of wheeling and dealing this week as some teams may be packing it in and others hoping to pack for the playoffs. Mariah has more for us.
The trade deadline was this week, and things are shaken up around the league. It's become quite clear which teams are seeking an immediate return on their investments, like Miami acquiring Bradley Chubb from Denver. The Miami defense was already loaded, but now they've added a guy with 5.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles so far this season. Watch your back, AFC. Another winner of the deadline, Minnesota, snagging TJ Hawkinson from divisional rival Detroit. The tight end gives Kirk Cousins yet another option in his already insane crew of Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook. He's Minnie's new Kyle Rudolph. But what's borderline laughable, Baltimore locking down Roquan Smith while Chicago still has to pay for the majority of his $5.4 million salary. This kid will take the purple pain to another level, already racking up 83 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions this season. And we can't talk winners without talking losers, which is arguably more fun. So, of course, we have to start with the dumpster fire that is Green Bay. In true cheesehead fashion, they failed to address Aaron Rodgers' need for a receiver with hands. So that sucks. And Los Angeles has gone from world champs to NFC West chumps, losing out on the Christian McCaffrey deal to San Francisco. That one stings. Now, sticking with the theme of teams struggling this season after playing in the big game, Cincinnati, you good, bro? If you're not going to find an interim replacement for Jamar Chase while he's injured, do the one thing America has been asking for the past 3 years. Get Joe Burrow some more protection on that offensive line. Zach Taylor, wake up, please. All right, that's enough of this. I'm getting worked up. I need to relax. Dave, I'll let you talk the rest of the time.
Find your zen, Mariah. Find your zen. As always, we're going to save the best for last. Jack and Teddy will have their top picks, plus the wheel of Keep It Real. See whose head it's going to land on this time and what they reveal.
Christian McCaffrey's touchdown pass last week is the 3rd San Francisco passing touchdown of 30-plus air yards since 2020. Who threw the other 2? The answer, Trey Lance and C.J. Beathard. McCaffrey is one of 3 running backs with a passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, and receiving touchdown in a single game since the 1970 merger.
Coming at you from Las Vegas, the sports betting capital of the world.
You love our show. Now you can get even more from BeatTheOddsTV.com. Betting lines, trends, and analysis of the big games.
The difference between a bad beat and a big win.
The interviews, the stories, plus a unique spin on sports history. Your ticket to in-depth content as seen on the show is all at BeatTheOddsTV.com. Check it out today.
With New England's win over Gang Green last weekend, Bill Belichick passed George Halas for the 2nd most wins by a head coach, including playoffs. Who is number 1? Don Shula, of course, with 347 career wins. I wish Coach Shula was still around. He used to offer a free beer to anyone who could answer trivia questions about him at his Shula Steakhouse restaurants.
All right, Mariah, you're not off the hook. Here is your midseason report card. An A for reporting, does a great job, but a D in citizenship. Well, she makes us boys look good. Obviously, downgraded for being a huge New England fan. Ouch! Now, overall, I think our show's an A minus, right? Pretty good. Improve your betting grade by scanning that QR code. You'll go to our website, beattheoddstv.com. All right, well, I think we score really high in this segment. It's top pick time. Jack, you get us started.
Yeah, Mariah, you hit me up before you take that home to mom and dad. You can actually just as all underachievers can do, you go in and make a couple of notes here, turn that D into a B, and then you wipe out in, and now you have appropriate humor. So, boom, by the time they get it, I'm looking like
that's how you got through high school.
And let's see. Thank you very much. Let's see if we can keep it going this week with the free play. I like under this time of year with a few different teams when they've shown that they are going to have trouble scoring, and there's no better example of that than Indianapolis. They're averaging 16 points a game. They fired their offensive coordinator. They are under 12 of their last 13 games, so they're going under consistently. Belichick does not believe in anything going on in the quarterback room with New England. Look for them to play field position, try not to make mistakes. I like under the total in the Indianapolis-New England game.
All right, Teddy, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to take a look at a home dog this week, namely Washington against Minnesota, plus 3.5 in that ball game. Look, Minnesota last week, and I've talked about Minnesota a couple times on this show as maybe a little bit overvalued. Now, they went 5 for 5 in the red zone last week. That's primed for aggression. They won 5 consecutive games in which they one-score games in the fourth quarter. That's primed for some regression. From a strength of schedule standpoint, Washington has faced the toughest schedule in the league so far. They are absolutely battle-tested. And, of course, it's pretty clear at this stage, nobody likes Carson Wentz. Every team gets better when he gets hurt. Taylor Heineke, 2-0 for the Commanders already this year, 7-4 dating back to last year.
All right, thank you, fellas. Well, now it's time for the wheel of keeping it real. We have our Vegas-style slot machine with our heads on it. See who it lands on. Let's spin it. Here we go.
Here we go. Big money.
All right. I was last week. Oh, Brandon this week. All right. Brandon Marshall, what is your reveal?
Fun fact about myself, I actually played running back in high school. My junior and senior year, I averaged 11 yards a carry. I wasn't a starter, but I was a backup. And it's funny because when I sent my highlight tape out, I got recruited by Colorado State and University of Nevada, Reno. They both said they could have offered me for running back, but they thought I'd be better on defense. I think I could have made the league in both.
He probably could have.
A better fun fact would be I'm a ballet dancer in the side or something, but
well,
multiple positions.
Maybe he
good.
is. We'll find out maybe next week. All right, thanks to Jack, Teddy, Brandon, Mariah, and all of you guys watching at home. I'm your C-minus host, Dave Hall.
I can handle that.
All right, yeah, cheat for me, Jack. All right, good luck this weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on Beat the Odds.